Hello, YouTube divers. This is Hardwired 122, and I want to welcome you all to the very first episode of Magic Metal Mondays. Yeah, the YouTube series where I rank all the albums of my favorite metal bands every Monday evening/afternoon. So yeah, here we go. Today we're going to be focusing on my personal favorite metal band, and the metal band that I know the most about, and that is the band Metallica. So today I'm going to rank their albums worst, from my personal worst to my personal best. If you'd like, please let me know your rankings down in the comment section below. I'd be most interested in hearing y'all's comments out there. But for now, let's get right into it. Number 10 for me, my least favorite Metallica album, no surprise here, is 2003 Saint Anger. I know a lot of people would probably put this at dead last on their personal rankings lists. But for me, it's just, why in the world? I mean, if I was alive back in 2003, if I listened to this album when it first came out, I probably would have told you this is one of the worst albums I've ever heard in my life. And Saint Anger is definitely one of those albums. The production is absolutely terrible. The snare drum just sounds absolutely garbage. You know what I'm talking about. And the songwriting has to be one of Metallica's worst efforts in their history. I mean, the songwriting is just on some songs, it's just bad, just plain bad. But however, there are a couple songs on this album that do work pretty well. And that is the first three songs, Frantic, the opening track, the title track, and Some Kind of Monster, which I believe Some Kind of Monster was their biggest hit off of that album. But it's a little bit unfortunate because there could have been like a lot of material that could have been at least saved, but overall they've just been thrown on the wall. So number 10, 2003's Saint Anger. Before we continue on, I just want to say that there will be no photos of these albums in this video here, probably because I don't really know how to put outside sources onto my videos yet. But once I learn them, I will come back and edit this video, and yeah. So without further ado, let's move on to number 9. Number 9 is their most recent album, 2016's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Now, this album is this low on the list because I have yet to hear a song from this album. Yeah, this is the album that I haven't really gotten to know that much very well. I have heard it's a wonderful album. But, of course, that's what some people think. I need to know for myself. So, keep the long story short, number 9 is 2016's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. And for a similar reason, number 8 is 2008's Death Magnetic. This album was a huge comeback album. This was the album that followed up Saint Anger, and it was a huge improvement over Saint Anger. Just some classic Metallica songs like The Day That Never Comes, All Nightmare Long, That Was Just Your Life, The Unforgiven 3. Well, I think The Unforgiven 3 is a classic. I don't really know. And of course Cyanide, just freaking killer songs. But the reason why I placed it this low on the list is because, like with Hardwired to Self-Destruct, it hasn't had that much time with me. So can't really make a full honest opinion about it, but from what I've heard, this is an amazing album. Very, very amazing album. And I'm talking about The Unforgiven 3. Yeah. Alright, moving on to number 7. And this one might actually take a lot of people by surprise, in my opinion. Number 7, I have the 1997 album Reload. Yes, it is the worst album by Metallica in the 90s. But overall, I don't really think it's a bad album at all. This is an album that has some pretty freaking classic songs on here. The Memory Remains and Fuel, and of course The Unforgiven 2, one of my all-time favorite Metallica songs, just an FYI. I also like the song Bad Seed. Um, yeah. But like with the previous two albums that I've talked about, it hasn't really had that much time with me. Mainly it's The Unforgiven 3 that's gotten me hooked onto this album. No, The Unforgiven 2, excuse me. That has gotten me hooked onto this album. But, yeah, so I feel pretty darn good about this album. This is probably the highest you'll ever see Reload. Unless there's some very hardcore Reload fans out there. Let me know down in the comments if y'all are hardcore fans of Reload or not. I'm pretty sure a lot of them are going to say no. Alright, moving on to number 6. This one might also be a surprise. I have the debut album from 1983, Kill 'Em All. Now, before y'all start giving me those comments that are criticizing the crap out of me, just know that Kill 'Em All is a very, very good album, but not really one of their best. And I say that because, for one thing, Metallica was just getting their feet wet into this kind of genre of metal. This was the only Metallica album to feature guitarist Dave Mustaine before he was kicked off, and eventually he left to form another big four band, Megadeth, which will be coming later on down the line, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, this is not a bad album at all. No, not a bad album. You got some classic songs on here like Hit the Lights and The Four Horsemen and Seek and Destroy. Seek and Destroy is, of course, a Metallica fan favorite for obvious reasons. So yeah, I just love this album. Well, I don't love it, but I don't hate it at the same time. This is a pretty good album, solid debut by a future superstar band. Moving right along to number 5, the 1996 album Load. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, what the heck, man? Why did you put Load ahead of albums like Death Magnetic or Kill 'Em All? I mean, why would you do that? Well, here's the reason why. Until It Sleeps, baby. Until It Sleeps is just a heck of a song, in my opinion. One of their most underrated pieces of all time. The first couple of tracks on here, like I Ate My Female Dog. Sorry, I'm not using forbidden language here. 2x4 and The House That Jack Built aren't really that But Until It Sleeps and King Nothing and some of the songs on the second side of the album are pretty darn cool too. But it's mainly Until It Sleeps that puts Load this high up on the list. I feel like Load is a very, 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 very underrated Metallica album. It definitely deserves more love. Moving on to number 4, I have the self-titled album from 1991. Yes, also known as the Black Album. This is an album that is by far Metallica's most complete album. Enter Sandman, Sad But True, The Unforgiven, My Friend of Misery, Of Wolf and Man, Wherever I May Roam, Nothing Else Matters. The list just goes on. So many great songs on here. This is by far their most complete album. And the only reason why I put this outside of my top 3 all-time favorite Metallica albums is mainly because of the production. The production, in my opinion, was a little bit overweight. I mean, it was fine, I guess, but I feel like they could have turned down the drum volume just a little bit, and raised the guitar and bass qualities up just a hair. But at least the good news is that the vocals are at least tolerable, so that's good, right? Moving on to number 3, the 1984 album Ride the Lightning. Oh boy, this is This was the album that turned on Metallica to the rest of the metal world. Nothing could have been basically perfect. More perfect than Ride the Lightning. You have For Whom the Bell Tolls, the title track, Fade to Black, Creeping Death. So many killer songs on here. This was the first album to feature current Metallica guitarist Kirk Hammett. He does a wonderful job filling in for Dave Mustaine. And yeah, the production is way better than it was on Kill 'Em All. Definitely now that Metallica's got their feet wet into this nice little position and they're ready to rock and roll, man. Yeah. All right, moving on to number 2, the 1988 album, And Justice for All. This album is freaking killer. I mean, yeah, you can barely hear the bass, which was the first album to feature Jason Newsted on bass after Cliff Burton's tragic death. Killed in a bus accident while they were touring the Master of Puppets album in 1986. All right, moving right along. So the song One is just a very, very amazing song. You can make the case it's one of my top 5 favorite Metallica songs of all time. Love that song to death. There are also some really other good tracks on here, like The Harvester of Sorrow, the title track, and Blackened and Dyer's Eve. So many great pieces on here, and so much good quality too. Just amazing. Just flat out amazing. This album is just an amazing classic metal album. And if you know your Metallica discography as much as I do, you already know what number 1 is. The 1986 album Master of Puppets. The title track of that album is by far my favorite Metallica song of all time. The instrumental Orion, Welcome Home Sanitarium, the freaking thrash metal tune of Battery. Oh my gosh. This album is just freaking heavy. Just so many great tunes here and there and everywhere around this entire album. In my opinion, this is their most well-produced album. This is their best album when it comes to song quality and vocals and just everything. And of course, you gotta love the freaking title track, man. Just so many great songs. Here, there, everywhere. Everywhere you look around this album. Just amazing. Master of Puppets. Easy number 1 for me. So, thank you so that is my list of Metallica album rankings. Thank you so much, fellow YouTube divers. This is what I want to turn to. Music studio tour will be coming up either tonight or tomorrow. Stay tuned in that, fellow YouTube divers. We're this close of getting the music studio all shaped, and ready to film. So thank you so much, fellow YouTube divers, for watching and for staying loyal with me. And we'll see you once again next week for another episode of Magic Metal Mondays. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at the albums by Cinderella. Yeah. So the 80s hair metal band Cinderella. There are only 4 albums from them, by the way. So, yeah. Thank you so much, fellow YouTube divers. This is Water 122. This is Water 122 saying out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.